Hi, everybody. This is Dennis Labriola, and I would like to welcome you to another installment of Seventh Inning Stretch, the podcast. You know, this is where we kind of talk about the importance of the relationships that we have, both today and those in the past. And we also talk about relationships that we may have with others now, kind of more, not so much from a receiving standpoint, but from a giving standpoint. And today's guest is someone that I have come to know for, I don't know, I guess what, 16, 17 years,
Yeah,
maybe more?
16,
17 years, you know? So
time flies, brother.
it sure does. It time flies, right? And, so let me tell you a little bit about my friend, all right? He's been in the New York City construction trade for some 44 years, 37 years of which he has been the founder and the CEO of his firm, Breen Electrical Contractors. He has an electrical engineering degree. He's been featured, get this, he's been featured in Popular Mechanics magazine as well as other trade-related publications. He must be an important guy. Right? Yeah. So he has served as a subject matter expert within our judicial system, and not everybody gets asked to do that. And he's an advisor for a large New York City engineering firm. But he's also benefited the community, serving nonprofit organizations for homeless shelters, pediatrics, cancer groups, civil organizations, and faith-based men's discipleship ministries. He is married, and he has 2 grown children and what, 3?
Three grandchildren.
Three grandchildren. He's getting old.
Braden, Mia, and Logan.
Wow. That's great. He's originally from Brooklyn, New York, so a lot of people are going to be like, thumbs up for that. But he now goes.
Great pride in that,
he resides in Pennsylvania now.
Pennsylvania.
In the woods.
In the woods.
So I would like you to please welcome my good friend, Mr. Kevin Breen.
Okay. Thank you, brother. Thank you. I got to tell you, I'm a little nervous.
You're nervous?
I'm nervous.
Really?
And I am nervous.
Wow.
I've never been interviewed by an accomplished author before.
Well,
your book, Seventh Inning Stretch, is definitely one of my favorites. Had a lot of recollection of times many years ago, and I want to thank you for that. And it's really an honor to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that you're here. We're here at my place in Long Island, and I miss you guys. Don't get to see you as much as we will. Yeah. We'll talk. I know, and Raina looks beautiful, and as always, and
coming up on 1 year that we're married, September 1st.
Wow,
so it's exciting.
So how fast did that go?
Oh man,
huh? Like that.
Bliss, my brother.
Bliss. Yeah, that's what she's going to be listening to this later. It's all good. It's all good. So, and I want to publicly thank you for, endorsing my book. I mean, he had to do the podcast because he endorsed my book. So, I mean,
I'm not getting paid for this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're getting dinner.
That is payment enough.
It might be. Right. And, but also I want to thank you because you were one of the very first to really encourage me. He encouraged me so much in writing the book and doing some of the edits that we needed to do, and really a big encouragement. So I just want to thank you through.
It's so easy to do it when you have a guy like yourself, brother, because you had a passion for this. And you fulfilled it. I mean, you really did a great job. I mean, I loved the book, and I've handed it out numerous times. My son loved the book. I mean, it's just a great book, and I'm excited for you.
Well, thank you.
And I hope you don't stop with that one.
Yeah. Well, we're starting to think about maybe the next one. So we'll see. But the other thing about the book, just so we can spend a moment on that, is that one of the underlying themes is the realizing that God is really always with us, always with us. And, and I have that saying, and I have a saying that says that whether we believe it or not, whether we recognize it or not, or whether we acknowledge it or not, he's there. And sometimes we get blessed by finding out that God has really been with us through a lot of stuff. And we all have a lot of stuff, right?
Man.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Yeah. Maybe we can actually see his footprints in our gardens as we kind of, live our lives and what have you. So, you gave me some background And so now it's no longer about the book or anything. This is about my buddy now. All right. And he gave me some information, some background information, really great stuff too, by the way. I mean,
thanks.
and I want to dig into that, but I have to begin by something that I feel was just amazing. And it goes back to an occasion where you were on stage at Madison Square Garden.
You seem to be so enamored with this.
I am, in New York City with Paul McCartney. He was on stage with Sir Paul McCartney
in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah,
the 12-12-12 concert.
The 12-12-12. Yeah, and matter of fact, and when I saw you there, I'm like, who's that with Kevin? He looks familiar.
Who's that guy?
Who's that guy? So and as we consider like all the events and the people that in one way or another contributed, they contribute to who we are, right? The things that we have done, the people that we have become. And I know that Kevin is really, really passionate about relating to people, and it happens through his work, and through the ministry that he's been involved with, and all of that. But as we kind of what I want to do is roll the clock back a little bit, because all of this kind of starts with Mom.
Not too far back.
Yeah, well, we're going to start with Mom.
We're going to go back.
We're going to go back to Mom. I mean,
Okay,
you got to start with Mom,
Mom.
no? So why don't you, tell me a little bit about Mom? I mean, moms are so important.
Mom was such a leader. I want to use the word leader. And back then I didn't recognize it as her being a leader, but she was so occupied with making sure we stretched ourselves to accomplish things in our life. Give you an example. She, when I was in high school, she made me go to work in her law firm in Manhattan in my junior year of high school. And she says, this is a great opportunity for you, because now when you become a lawyer, which was her dream, not mine, but it was her dream. But she stretched me, and I was put in situations where I was uncomfortable many times. I mean, here's a junior in high school, and I'm walking around the law firm, getting checks signed from these big attorneys and whatnot, and they're engaging me in conversation, and I'm like, this young kid. It was sort of like very intimidating. But Mom would always say, hey, listen, they're no different than you. You put your pants on the same way they do it. And she always had this way of making everyone feel like they were important, but normal. You know what I'm saying? So that really was something that I lived with. Yeah. And I was always, I always held her in the highest regard. Never wanted to tax her in any way. What do I mean by that? A lot of kids when I was younger were going to certain high schools and whatnot, and it cost them their family money. Yeah. I decided I didn't want to do that. I want to go to a public high school. I was fortunate enough to make a good decision based on a teacher that I had in grammar school, which was another important relationship I had.
I'm going to bring that up a little bit.
And he sort of influenced me to go to Brooklyn Tech, and it turns out to be one of the premier schools in the country. Yeah. Didn't know it then, but it really set the foundation for what I did later on in life.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Now, I know that, and we all have moms, and moms are important, right? You notice that, like all of the, the athletes, it's like, hi, Mom, they never they never really say hi, Dad. Yeah. Because our dads sometimes are, dads can be dads, and sometimes they're good, and sometimes, and I know, your dad, like so many, had some difficulties, right? Some difficulties. And
Dad had some difficulties.
Yeah, yeah.
He battled a disease I call alcoholism. Yeah. And, when you're younger and you see your dad go through that, you really you don't have the wisdom to understand it. But all you do understand is that I don't want to be embarrassed. And I was constantly being embarrassed. And it was tough. Yeah. And Mom would always be there to sort of placate me and, put me in the right direction and say, it's going to be okay. Right. She was always forgiving of the situation, and made sure that we didn't go that direction. When I say we, my brother and I, my younger brother, Richard. And so it was tough. And at 17, the alcoholism got the best of him, and he went and left. Yeah. And he left and started another family.
Well, thank God that your mom was as strong as she was, to overcome this. And, because, one of the things that we realized, both Kevin and I, we work with a lot of men. And one of the things that we realize is that, so many single parent homes, they're without a dad. Or dad may just be, he may be there, but he's absent, right? I mean, and I guess a lot of the years that dad was in the home, I mean, because of his alcoholism, he was kind of absent,
No question.
yeah, and that, and it affects our sons and daughters more than we could ever really imagine, and it's really a devastating thing, and it's one of the reasons why Kevin and I work together at sometimes, but you had, and again, we can see God in all of this, especially after the fact, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
One of the things that, when you look in retrospect, when you look back on your life, you say to yourself, my Lord, how did that person ever come into my life? It was just at the right time.
yeah,
And, now I know, I mean, I didn't know it then as a young man, but, it was so incredible how certain people were injected into my life at a time when I really needed some help.
yeah,
And God surely had his hand in it, because it steered me. It was like steering me around the obstacles.
yeah. How do you navigate through life
As a young kid?
as a young kid,
And mom was always saying, hey, listen, Kevin, you need to find other men in your life who can be people you can admire. I had a very young friend. I remember Steven. He was one of my closest friend when this was in grade school. And he had a father, Jack, who was always taking us to do these jobs on the weekend. I mean, he was a copy repairman, but on the weekends he was going to offices and he was cleaning rugs, and he would take us with him. And I so admired this guy because he took care of his family. He was always there with his kids, and he was just such a great example of a man. I says, something? It really comes down to the choice of what you want to be.
Yeah, so true.
And he made the choice that he was going to support his family and take care of his family.
Wow.
And it was just the complete opposite of what I was involved with.
Yeah.
And later on in life, I would realize that man, Jack, really had a big, major impression on me.
Wow. And I know that you had. I want to ask you about Uncle Mike.
Oh, Uncle Mike.
Now Uncle Mike, because he was the guy.
James Bond.
I have it down here. A real to life James Bond.
Oh my Lord!
Now I had an Uncle.
Everybody's got an Uncle Mike.
I had an Uncle Mike too.
I mean, picture this. I'm a young kid, probably 10, 11 years old, and Uncle Mike walks in the door from work, and he's got a briefcase handcuffed to his wrist. And I'm like, Uncle Mike, what is that? Yeah. He goes, if I tell you, I got to kill you.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Uncle Mike, really? Come on.
Wow.
Oh, no. This is top secret information. I have to be in Washington tomorrow.
Wow.
And I'm going, Mom, what the heck is Uncle Mike doing?
Yeah, what is he? Yeah.
What the heck is that, Mom? And so he was just like the man.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything that this guy, everything he did was interesting. Yeah. I mean, on Mondays when I went to work, now he lived in Jersey, so we jump on the train at Penn Station, we go all the way out to Jersey. And Monday when we came back, I'd be going to school with a Geiger counter in my hand, doing show and tell in the 6th grade.
Wow.
I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, and kids were looking at it. What the heck did he get that? The teachers were, what the heck? Where's he around?
Wow.
But
you know what? It's, I mean, and we laugh about it, right? But it's so important that we have these kinds of people in our lives, these people that impact us in a positive way. And, and he obviously, and they can be characters. I mean, there's no problem. And we like the characters. We like the James Bond guys, in our life, those become some of our heroes and some of the people that we look up to. And
I mean, the laughs that we had together. I mean, imagine waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning and Uncle Mike's going, come on, Kevin, get up. We got to get outside to work. And I'm like, come on, Uncle Mike, it's only 8 o'clock. Yeah, come on, we got to get to work. We're going to get rid of all the weeds in the front garden. I walk in the garage and he straps a flamethrower to my back. This is true. And now I'm out there shooting flames at the weeds. And
wow.
In his infinite wisdom as an engineer, this highfalutin engineer, he's like, we're going to burn the place. We're going to burn the weeds and get rid of them. And my mother's like freaking out. And, Uncle Mike's laughing.
It's like throwing grenades,
know. Well, he probably would have had us do that too.
Well, but that answers a lot of questions for me because, like I mentioned, Kevin lives out in PA now. Right. And so you can't do anything small. I mean, how big is your place in PA?
30 acres.
30 acres. He's got 30 acres, right? He went from Brooklyn to a place out there.
Yep.
He's got this ranch now out there, right? But so you want to plant a couple of trees. Well, if you have 30 acres, it's not a couple of trees. Yeah, he went out and he bought a big tractor. And I said, he's my hero. He's my hero.
Farmer John.
I'm going to go out there just to drive the tractor.
Just drive the tractor.
That's what I want to do,
And I'll take a picture of it.
Wow.
I'll give you the hat and everything, the John Deere hat and everything.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Now, you had another father figure in your life, Mr. Jack.
Yeah, Jack. That was
Jack.
Yeah, Jack was the.
Okay.
Now, just to expand on Jack.
Yeah.
So Jack had three boys, and I was close with two of them. And Jack later on went into opening up a jewelry store in Green Acres Shopping Center.
Really?
Yeah, King Richard Jewelers. Believe it or not, his wife,
Actually heard of them.
Clara Quadrino, is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk to her quite frequently.
Wow.
And she's an amazing, she takes great pride in being the one who takes all the credit for my Catholicism, because she would take me to church every Sunday. Wow. She's to this day, she says, Kevin, if it wasn't for me, you'd be the biggest heathen in New York. And I'm like, and Clara, I mean,
but she dragged you to church.
She dragged me to church.
Yeah, right.
She dragged me to church.
And that's where you met Father Michael Conroy.
Oh, Father Conroy. I had this thing when I was younger, being in a Catholic school. I was enamored with these guys that were up on. They were other classmates of mine, but they were up on the altar assisting the priest in mass and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I said, how can I do one of that? And Father Conroy says, come Monday, and we'll talk about it, and we'll see what we can do. Well, needless to say, I became an altar server. I used to call us altar boys.
Yes.
Can't use altar.
Can't use that anymore.
So, and imagine that. But anyway,
not politically
God loves all the service.
Everybody, all the service. Okay.
But the thing that was most impressive at that time of my life was I found this real zeal to assist at mass. Mm. I felt so connected. It was like home for me.
Wow.
And I was the one that they give the 6:30 mass to in the middle of the winter, and I'm trucking up to church at 6 o'clock to put my cassock on and my alb and serving mass 5 days a week, because he's the young guy. He's the new guy. So we give him the 6:30 mass. And Father Conroy used to be the one who used to serve, and he says, listen, I appreciate your discipline to be here.
Yeah.
And he sort of gave me a direction that I really took. I mean, I was humbled by it, but at the same time, I felt so connected to the Lord being in that assistant position. It really made a difference.
Yeah, sure.
And I mean,
you kept that relationship a long time with him, his whole life, or his whole.
In fact, later on in life, he was assigned to a parish we were in Brooklyn, St. Thomas Aquinas. He was transferred there while I was a parishioner there with my two kids, and at the time, my ex-wife. And we sort of reconnected.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still have a letter that he gave me in 1972, thanking me for my service during Easter week. I still have it. In fact, I've shown it to a few people. And I was asked to read at his funeral mass.
Wow.
A gospel, not gospel, but a reading at his funeral.
Right.
It was such an honor for me. I mean, he was just a salt of the earth type guy. He was really taught me the reverence and the respect that the Lord needed. We talk about the fear of the Lord.
Yeah.
He didn't make it sound like it was dangerous. He made it sound like it was loving.
Yes.
And I appreciated that so much.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, so important. You see how many relationships that he has, right? So now he's like getting into 7th and 8th grade. All right. And you had a teacher in your life.
Oh,
all right. He must have been a great guy, because his first name was Dennis. I say,
yeah.
You're right. Dennis.
That's right.
Hone? Is that how Hodney. Dennis Hodney. And he was, based on your notes, he was probably one of the most influential guys on why you are in electrical engineering, right?
He's one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, what he did, he was our 7th and 8th grade teacher, And at that time, I was playing a lot of basketball. We were all into sports, and he was a tremendous athlete. So we immediately admired this guy.
Yeah.
And he's playing with all of us. I mean, it was phenomenal relationship we had with him. But he was all about business when it came to school. And he was a math teacher and he was a science teacher. And those are my two favorite subjects.
Yeah,
So I immediately connected with this guy.
Wow.
So much so that when I graduated the 8th grade, I was sort of lost. I didn't know what high school I wanted to go.
Right.
And he says, you know something, Kevin? You'd benefit from the school I graduated from. I said, what school was that? He said, Brooklyn Technical High School. And so I took the test, scored really good on the test, and I was accepted and went there for the next 4 years. It was the best education you can get.
Wow.
It was phenomenal.
So important. So important. So, all these people sewing into you, I mean, you're a blessed man.
Oh,
You're a blessed man.
At this time of my life, I love to think back on those years.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even, we're not even scratching the surface.
And there was a lot, but there was difficulty because that's the whole time that your dad was going through what he was going through.
Yeah. I mean, there was a time I was very much involved in scouting, Boy Scouts. And I was introduced to scouting. I'll tell you how I was introduced to it. We had a family that lived downstairs. There were 4 brothers. We lived in an apartment, three-family apartment building. And the Garby family, and one of them had a Boy Scout handbook that he left on my step. Not to make me see it, but he just left it on my step. Well, I perused this book. I was sort of like, this is unbelievable. Yeah. This is what I want to do. But you're talking to a guy who watched The Rifleman, Combat, Flipper, and all these things that had to do with scuba diving, hunting, and fishing and fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
stuff. Got sky stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so that book was sort of like, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah, this is like
so
legitimate.
Now all of a sudden I'm going, Mom, I want to be a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
And at that time I was too young, so I had to be a Cub Scout. But I went through the entire program.
Wow.
And met some incredible people on that journey.
Yeah.
And learned that a scout is reverent. And I sort of had that down. But you want to know something? It was another place where it was impacted to me that it was important. Yeah. To have a relationship with God. Yeah. And so I was sort of like, wow, this, even in the scouting program, they're going to talk about reverence to God. And so it was just like it was amazing. It was so amazing. And then all the people that I met through that, and it was phenomenal. Phenomenal experience.
So
excuse me.
So we have all kinds of different people that watch the podcast. And and I know that some of you out there are relating to Kevin because maybe you're going through some of the same things that that he went through, with his dad, whether it be alcoholism or some abuse of a substance, and you're, maybe you're one of the younger people on, and you're not really sure, how to navigate through some of this, and I want to spend just a couple of minutes and maybe talking about that and what to give some of them a little bit more hope too. I mean, seeing you and hearing your story, obviously that gives hope, but there's so many wonderful programs that people, I know that you've been involved with some in your the work that you've done through, whether it be through ministry or through community. What would you tell some of these younger people in our audience as far as allowing God to help? Maybe that's the way I can put it.
Well, that's a great question, and I think it first starts with speaking to God. In all those times, what we're not talking about is the pain that I really was going through at that time. Yeah, and it was God who I would go to in those moments and say, Lord, why does my dad have to embarrass me in front of these people? And he would sort of give me a response like, forgive him. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's a disease. Yeah. And I got to be honest with you, that was a tough time for me because I held a lot of angst against him. And later on in life, I would have to forgive him, which is God. Yeah. Because I realized that if you understand the importance of starting there, God directs you in the paths that are going to benefit you.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Today, there are so many opportunities for young men and young women, for that matter, to be associated with people that aren't of God. And I think that's a huge problem. I tell my son and my daughter all the time, you're raising your children, make sure you have the component of faith and God in your life, because this world is upside down.
Yeah, that is true. It is upside down.
And even more so than ever before.
Yeah.
The trust in the Lord that he's going to direct your paths is more important than ever before.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage young people today to seek out opportunities at their church or wherever.
Yeah, youth
where
groups.
they can get around men.
Yeah.
That are, now nobody's perfect.
No.
But conditionally speaking, I have to say that because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket and just lynch, connect yourself to one guy.
Right.
But, find men that could sow into your life.
Yeah, I think it's important, whether they be teachers or coaches or, there was a movie that that kind of explains a lot of this too. It was a movie with Gene Hackman called Hoosiers.
Yes. Oh, one of my favorites.
And, similar story. Here is
picket fence.
Yeah. The son is embarrassed with his dad, who's got an alcohol problem, and, and how they overcame that. If you haven't seen the movie, you definitely want to check it out. It's a classic. And it's a sports movie. So, I mean, if you're a guy, you definitely want a sports movie. But it's so important. We look at, we're talking a little bit about the Lord and what have you. And one of the things that occurred to me was that, there's the old Bible story where God created Adam and Eve and put them in the garden, right? And he said, and he walked with them and he talked with them and so forth, right? And I don't think God has done really too much different. I mean, he puts us all in our garden, and then he wants to walk with us and talk with us. And if we allow him to do that, then he will make himself known. And if we don't allow him to do that, then we'll kind of walk in our garden by ourselves, or so it seems. But if you're going through stuff, make sure you talk to somebody. Have a conversation with someone. There's so many people out there that just, we care for our younger generations and what have you. And there's nothing to be embarrassed about. There's nothing like that. It's, there are people that really do care, and you can get whatever help it is that you need. And you can help navigate through this. And then you can be the one that's going to be sharing some of the stories like Kevin's sharing, and you can have, be impactful as well.
And when you think you're the only one that's gone through that, you haven't. Because there's other people that have gone through it and can help you, and God will deliver those people in your life.
Absolutely.
That was the one thing that I recognized.
Yeah.
Because all those people I talked about, none of them had a drinking problem.
No.
Not one of them.
Not one. Thank God.
Thank God. Thank God.
So there's another gentleman that I want to talk about that we haven't spoken about yet, and I've come to know who he is too, through my circle, kind of before that we've made the connection, through that, and but he was a good buddy with you growing up.
Yeah.
And that's our friend John Simeone is his name, and it's good to have somebody that you could run with.
Oh.
And he was also a Boy Scout.
I think I was always trying to catch up to him. I mean, he was so far ahead of me, but he pushed me.
Yeah.
And if there's any one person that sort of gave me the desire to want to achieve at a very young age, it was John.
Yeah.
John was a phenomenal athlete. He was a high achiever. I mean, 4th degree black belt. I mean, there wasn't anything that this guy, pull-ups. I couldn't do pull-ups.
He was an
Eagle Scout. He was actually my senior scout leader when we were in the Scouts.
Right.
But he and I would team up at every one of these camporees. Nobody could beat us.
Yeah.
Nobody beat us because we knew how to start a fire faster than anyone. We knew how to do everything together.
Yeah.
And
of course, you lived in Brooklyn. Come on, you're not fooling me. But I had those lighters.
But Nah, we used flint and steel, my brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was a
Flint and
serious
steel.
competition.
Mhm.
But John always was on the forefront of pushing you and encouraging you to do better. And he was such a major influence at
Yeah.
a time when I didn't think I was capable.
So, so the two of you, when you first met, how old were you when you first became
11.
friends? 11 years old.
Yeah.
And you're still friends now.
Today.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
He lives like
He speaks of
maybe
you
an
often.
hour and a half from me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Him
So,
and his wife Arlene.
so that's like 50 years, maybe more.
54 years.
54 years. I was trying to be kind.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
Just trying to keep it real, brothers.
Yeah, yeah. Now you and I met through a sub ministry of Men's Discipleship Network. We call it MDN, and that was Businessmen of Faith,
right?
Where we were talking about.
That was the first time we met.
Yeah, it was the first time
we met.
First time we met, and
by the way, that story is very interesting too. You talk about the hand of God.
Yeah.
I had a man come to my office to try and sell. He was selling me wire for my business.
Yeah.
And he and we wouldn't be talking about wire in the office. We were talking about the Bible.
Yeah.
And so that was our friendship. I'd give him the order, and then the next 45 minutes we were talking about the Bible.
Yeah, yeah.
So he says to me, Kevin, there is a lunch next week that I really want you to come to. It's on Long Island. They have it every month, I believe, but it's called Businessmen of Faith. Well, I love that name, Businessmen of Faith.
Yeah.
And I went. My life changed right after that.
Wow. Wow. That's where you met Pastor Scott Caesar.
Well, I knew Scott.
I knew Scott before.
Oh, yeah,
you knew him through the business.
Yeah,
right.
I knew
Gotcha.
him.
Gotcha.
I was at his wedding, in fact.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so
but that only made
reconnected.
That would make that. I was going to say that was kind of the reconnection.
Yes,
perhaps,
absolutely. Right? At a time in my life where I was crying out to the Lord, that I needed, and the exact words I used was, "Lord, can you just give me a group of men that understand what I'm going through right now, and can help me get back in the right direction?"
Yeah, yeah.
That was when I was going through my divorce.
Yeah, I know. Difficult time. And you you volunteered a lot for that ministry. You were actually the chairman?
Chairman of the board.
Chairman of the board there.
Yeah.
Served there for a time. And
very excited about some of the tasks we had to raise money for them. That's when we brought in Mariano Rivera for a golf outing.
Yeah, I know. I got to play with him for a few hours. He hits the ball a long way.
Yeah,
and
he's a really good guy.
Yeah,
he's a regular.
Daryl Strawberry.
Daryl
Strawberry also endorsed my book, so so we put the arm on him for that. So
rightfully so, brother.
Yeah,
rightfully so.
Yeah. Wow. So I, and now, like you said, 1 year ago, you and Raina got married.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that was, and this might be
beautiful wife.
Yeah. And she's a beautiful, beautiful woman. We both are blessed with beautiful women, both with second chances. Because my first wife passed away in 2005, and I kind of figured I was going to be alone the rest of my life. You went through, a divorce that is never pleasant. Divorce is not pleasant at all.
But I think it's important to know it doesn't define you.
No, it does not define you.
And God, opened up doors. For me.
Yeah, and
He put me in MDN to meet guys like yourself. Pastor Scott. Andrew. I mean, all these guys have sowed into my life, and that's the hand of God. Relationships because of MDN.
Yeah, and because God is he's more interested in our heart than he is our hands, right? He's interested in knowing, and it doesn't matter what we've done and what our past is, whether we're the good guy or not the good guy or whatever. None of that matters, because as we come to God, then he's the one who, he accepts us, forgives us, kind of gets us right. We just have to be honest with him. And, it's really not a difficult thing. You just have to be honest with God, because he's always going to be honest with us one way or the other. And
can't lie.
No, you can't. He knows.
How great is that?
He knows it all.
About it.
He knows it all.
When you
I know.
think about it.
I was such a good liar at one point, but can't anymore. So anyway, but God takes care of everything, and all we have to do is acknowledge him. And that's kind of the point. All you got to do is acknowledge him, Lord
and
God,
listen,
what I'm going to do.
And listen in quiet time to hear him.
Yeah. Wow. So I want to ask you now, because, we're both a little older now, right? We received so much from so many people. I know that, I know, and we start with family. Right now, where we want to be the examples, and we want to be the people of wisdom and the elders, and and the good guys. But it goes way beyond family sometimes. You want to talk about that a little bit as to how you're impacting other people, whether it be through MDN or whether it be, even
Well,
one-on-one with people.
That's a really good question. I mean, a major portion of my life, and I think it goes back to my involvement in the church when I was younger, where I learned that helping others was something that the Lord smiled upon.
Mm.
And there were a lot more people less fortunate than me. I mean, I would think that I'm, entitled to have somebody feel sorry about me, but my mom would never let us feel
Yeah.
sorry for ourselves.
Okay.
And so I learned at a very young age, and because of my background in scouting and local boys and whatnot, service to your fellow man is the most rewarding thing you can do.
Mhm.
And I learned that at a very young age. And I got to be, and I'll tell you a quick story. I remember there was a nun I had in school. Her sister and her husband perished in a car accident.
Wow.
And they left a young boy who was like 6. And he's staying with the nun that I had in school. And she asked me, she says, Kevin, would you mind coming to the convent and taking him out for a little while and play some ball with him? I said, sure, I'll come. Well, I had the most rewarding time doing that because this kid was overjoyed that somebody actually cared.
Mhm.
And I never forgot that.
Yeah.
And later on in life, my daughter and I would make sandwiches and go to Manhattan and hand them out. And it was something that I liked sharing with my daughter. And we would do things, crazy things like that. But service to your fellow man is imperative.
Yeah.
It's really made a difference for me.
And I think it's important that each of us find something that we can make a commitment to help somebody else. I think, and
100%.
and I think that we're the greater rewarder or rewarded. We're greatly rewarded for doing that when we're out there.
And what does the Lord say? You do it to the least of my brothers, you do it for me.
Yeah.
And that there is such truth in that. And doing those good works is not going to find you in heaven. It's your love of Jesus, and Jesus being your Lord is going to find you in heaven.
Right.
But you want to know something? It's a lot more enjoyable sharing like the Lord shared.
Well, it makes life go much more rewarding, being
100%.
more significant. We all want significance in our life, and that's probably the way to do it. That's probably the way to do it. So, so in closing, I want to thank you for.
It's finished already.
Pretty much.
I have so much to talk about. Do you? Oh, you kidding? I can go on for another hour about people I knew.
I know that you can, because I know him, and you can. We're probably going to go. We're gonna have a little dinner now. We're gonna.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna have
a nice bottle of wine.
I'm gonna probably have some more stories that we have to do a second podcast. Well, anyway. But I want to thank you for sowing into my life and for being part of my life, for coming on the podcast. I think hopefully you enjoyed this, and I really hope that you found something of value, something that maybe is going to give you, if you're going through some tough times, maybe it's just going to give you just a little hope, and just say, you know what, he didn't have it so easy, and God stepped in and helped him, and God is not he does the same for everybody, He's not. The Bible says he's not a respecter of person, which means he doesn't favor one over another. Sometimes it seems that way, but it really doesn't. All right. So I would just suggest that just go and find something that hopefully is going to make a little difference. You just need a little difference today and a little difference tomorrow, and maybe that works. So if you enjoyed the podcast, well, share it with someone. All right, that would be a good thing, right? And and if you're interested in other episodes that we have, well, you can find them on my YouTube channel, and you can very simply just go to DennisLabriola.com, DENNIS, last name Labriola, LABRIOLA.com. There's a little YouTube icon there. Just click on that, and you'll get to see some of the shorts, and you get to see some of these other podcasts, and we basically put them out, monthly at this point. So, so I always like to leave with 3 words, and the words are: remember, acknowledge, and appreciate all the people in your life and how God has, even if you don't really get it, he's there. Think about it.
I appreciate you, brother.
God bless you, man. Until next time.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.